The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Geek Nation Tours, and by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everybody for your fantastic support. We really appreciate it. Thank you. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 227. Firestorm Games, with hosts Neil Shook, Mike Hobbs, Mike Whittaker and Dave Luff, and Andy Walpole from Firestorm Games. Hello, gentle listener, and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. My name is...
Yay! So I'm trying to do the American style show.
Can I please suggest, Mr. Hobbs, that whatever you're currently on, can you please stop? Thank you.
I wish you, gentle listener, to imagine me staring slightly blankly at the screen of the microphone, trying to figure out what Mr. Hobbs is, in fact, on.
Answers on a postcard other than not this planet springs to mind, but there we go. I mean, Hobbsy, have you listened to this show before?
Yeah. Yay! Woohoo! New York! Hey!
Yeah, good evening, one and all.
I'm trying to appeal to the American listener. You know, this is multiculturalism.
Hobbsy, it's easy to appeal to the American listener. Have a British accent.
But I'd be a villain. I'd be a little Welsh villain.
I don't know what you mean.
That's fine. It just means you get to drive a Jaguar and stroke a white cat.
It's more? Good to be bad.
Indeed.
Yeah. Man, this is starting well.
It's not good at all, is it? I mean, we're off topic and we haven't even said hello to everybody yet. Oh my word! Yes, as you have gathered from.
Yeah, this is Neil. That's Hobbsy. I'm Mike.
Yeah, good evening, one and all. How have you been, chaps? Other than Mr. Hobbs, who's obviously on far too much medication than he normally is.
Doing the usual things I do the week before for Hereward, namely redrawing the floor plan several times.
Aha. Yes.
As Ruben goes, no, this trailer's dropped out. No, we've got another one to replace them, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, we're good. Final floor plan going to the venue tomorrow. We're all sorted. We have traders. We have games. It'll be fab.
Indeed. So first shout out.
We have Harry Sidebottom.
Oh, is he recovered?
He is recovered. He no longer looks like someone took an ice pick to his nose. Well, much. And he will be along to entertain and flog his books and talk about history to anybody who'll listen in much the way he does.
Indeed. Excellent stuff. Yes, so if you are listening and it is before Sunday the 3rd of September, so admittedly this does mean that, you'd have to have downloaded the show fairly smartish. On Sunday the 3rd of September, it is Hereward show, which is something that obviously you've been listening to Mr. Whittaker tell us talk about for the last few weeks in various ways, shapes and form. Yeah, yes. So yes, Hereward 3. Is that right? 3rd?
The search for Harold.
This time is personal.
Well, it will be after last year. Yes, you need to listen to last year's talk after.
UPS, you had one job.
Indeed. Hereward 3, Peterborough Wargames show, to be held where, sir?
That will be at the Crescent, which is in Bretton, Peterborough, P38DX, I think. As ever, starts at 10, finishes at 4.
How many traders, how many games?
25 traders, 20 games. The Crescent, Bretton Centre, Peterborough, P38DX. Go me! Admission is a £5, on the grounds that by the time you're listening to this, it'll be too late to get the £3 in advance rate. Unaccompanied 16s and under are free. No, we've got a tabletop sale. We've got an X-Wing Magic tournament. We've got Harry Sidebottom. We've got all manner of fun stuff. James Morris is bringing that lovely Oppie Wood game from Partisan.
Oh, from the first Partisan?
Stuff. Yes.
Oh, very nice. Cool.
Yes, I
that
thought
was
so.
nice.
James is a good friend of the show, and he does bring good stuff.
And some of us will be there as well.
Well, I better be.
Well, you better be. I will be.
I'll make 2 of us then.
Yes.
I won't be.
Oh.
Which probably make it much better.
Are you bringing Luffy, or is he busy again?
Luffy's not a Brummie. I'm the Brummie.
Anyway, is he busy again, or is he?
Is he busy? I haven't got a clue.
Does he have a clue? No, he doesn't.
I don't know. Yes, the Luffmeister may or may not be around. Right. But yes, okay. So there'll be at least a couple of us around. So
Lovely,
say
super,
hi.
smashing, marvellous.
So that's Hereward, 3rd of September. Obviously, if you're listening to this and it's past the 3rd of September, you missed it. We'll tell you about it next week. Yep. Cool. Well, so I did what I was told last week.
Bit?
I did what I was told, especially after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As he says.
Yes.
In an overly excited way. It's very good. Lovely article, Neil.
It's part 1. I must admit, it's not really finished, but I was running out of time because lunchtime was over, and yes.
I thought I was the only person who wrote articles in lunch breaks.
Oh no! Hence part 1, probably of something like 3. Because but it is an interesting subject, and there's a lot of things. Funny enough, again, there's a lot of things attached to it. If you don't know what we're talking about, obviously you may remember that that I was outed or brought to task for the amount of games that I talked about, and then it's like, it was a. So where are all these now, Neil? Confess, and then. Hobbsy and Mr. Whittaker both got my collection as well. So I thought I'd better, come clean before Hobbsy outed me as well. So there we go. So yes, there is an article in the editorial column talking about my top games in the last few years and where they are at the moment. Yes, a couple of which you kind of look at and kind of go, crikey, was it that long since I played that? However, probably even sadder was the fact that I could look them all up on Board Game Geek and find out when I last played them.
That's not sad, that's just being organised.
Subtly OCD.
Yeah. Gentle.
The only one that has got an entry next to it is Space Hulk, and that was simply because since I've had my Board Game Geek account, I haven't played Space Hulk, so that's been a long time. Anyway.
So if you want to find this article, it is on Neil's blog entitled Dilution Theory Part 1.
Part 1, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, there will be more.
To say I am quietly appalled to say that you see that you reckon you won't play I Ain't Been Shot Mum again. It's a very different game to Chain of Command.
Agreed.
It's not a platoon scale game. It plays differently. You think differently. And just because you play Chain of Command a lot, you shouldn't give up on I Ain't Been Shot Mum. Speaking as an I Ain't Been Shot Mum evangelist, you understand?
I do. Yes, I do. I do thoroughly appreciate your reasoning, Mr. Whittaker. However, that reasoning is tempered by the fact that my normal wargaming partner is Mr. Luff. Enough said.
You do have to factor
refer the honourable gentleman to the fact that I am but 45 minutes down the road and I have enough forces for both sides.
Okay, point made and taken. And
Mr.
Hobbs, what was yours? Because Mr. Whittaker managed to talk over you again.
Sorry.
That's all right. I thought I was just on mute. I'm just saying you have to factor in the Luff effect. when it comes to the dilution theory and I don't want to play another World War II game.
Well, there is
I've
that.
got a World War II.
point.
Yeah,
I should be playing another game. I like Chain of Command. I want to play Chain of Command. Neil, why aren't we playing Chain of Command? It is fun when he's not here. I think we can really rip into him.
The problem is he doesn't then listen to the podcast, so he doesn't realise we're doing it.
I know, it just makes it more fun. So, shall we take a break?
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we will catch up with what we've been up to in these last few days since we last spoke.
Woo!
You really do have to change your medication, mate.
The eagles have gone. Britain lies defenseless in a cruel world. Since the birth of our Lord, it has been 456 years. What sins have we committed to bring this punishment to Britain? I speak, of course, of the Saxons. They came as allies, but now they seek conquest. The lands of the Britons lie ravaged before them. Blood runs red in our island. We need a leader to stand against them. We need a man to bring together the Britons in common cause. We seek a Dux Britanniarum.
Right, that's enough of that. Dux Britanniarum from Two Fat Lardies. They really are very good.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all. And so it is time to catch up with what we have been up to in the last few days since we last were with you. A fair amount, I think, actually. One thing and another.
Possibly.
Who wants
Things
to
have
start? Lots of things have happened. Shall I start for a change?
Yeah, go on.
Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Go on, okay. Painted. I've painted something.
Woo! Come on, that deserved it that time.
I thought you said you weren't going to do that anymore. You promised us off air.
Hobbsy, have you got a baby seal in the room?
Yes, and his name is Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Yes. Right. I have started to paint the Test of Honor Samurai that I was whinging about putting together last week. So I've got undercoat, base coat. Well, most of a base coat on. So yeah, I did that on Monday, and it is quite interesting painting. What we've got about a dozen plastic figures next door, and I've got a dozen plastic figures and one metal one. The contrast between painting the plastics and the metal is somewhat marked, shall we say. Someone did tweet on Monday, what do they like to paint? Yeah, they're about as good to paint as they are to assemble.
So, lots of detail on them. Lots of nice, fine detail you can get a brush into and do some subtle washes to really bring out that lovely, fresh, crisp detail.
No, not really.
No?
No, so
I was going to say, it does look like they'd be moulded in a blancmange mould or something.
They're not quite that bad. It has to be said, it has to be said, having put the base coat and the wash on, the level of detail it has brought out is a tad disappointing. And so I don't know if I'm going to be able. Well, I don't know if my original plan for finishing painting is going to work. I'll give it a go. If they look rubbish, then they'll look rubbish for one game, and then I won't use them anymore, and I'll paint the metal ones. But as I say, at the same time, it is a case of it's been 4 months since I painted anything, so I just thought, you know what, I'll just ease myself back into it, and I'll do something, before I start doing stupid things like ruining some decent figures, because I just need to get that little bit of brush practice. So anyway, so in the middle of painting those, I'm hoping to get them finished in the next week or so. Although, having said that, real life is getting in the way a little bit because I'm going to have to spend a few days in hotels, which under normal circumstances wouldn't be too bad. But the fact is, it's London, so I'm not going to be able to. I don't think I'm going to be able to cart my painting kit around and paint the hotel room in London. If it was somewhere else, then I might just stick it in the car. But I'm not driving, so there we go. Anyway, by the by, so yes, started painting something. Evidence will appear, and yes, I have been painting it myself. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. People accusing me on Twitter that yes, but do we have any proof it's actually you? Stuff I have to put up with on social media. I don't know.
It's terrible.
Anyway, it's
lack
terrible.
of trust.
I don't know. It's terrible. Anyway, so yes, painted something. Played one game this week. We didn't get a chance to play on our usual gaming night because it was a colleague's leaving do at work. So we drank beer and ate in a Turkish restaurant. But I did manage to get together and play over the weekend with my other mate Dave. Dave.
Hello, other Dave.
There was a couple of things that we may have played. I think we started off by potentially going to be playing Rebellion, and then he's just succumbed and bought Wings of Glory, basically because he saw somebody playing it at the other Partisan the other week, and went, "Ooh, World War I planes."
That will be the Wings of Glory demo team.
That will be the Wings of Glory demo team, indeed.
Who do their level best to plug the living bleep out of both hits and Wings of War and Sales of Glory at every available opportunity, and more power to them.
Indeed, they put a very good display, and especially with Mr. Hickman being an ex-ATC cadet. He's quite partial to the odd aircraft game, so we almost played Wings of Glory, which I must admit, I don't know if I've ever played the new version. I played the old version of Wings of War many moons ago, but I don't think anyway. But we didn't play either of those. We ended up playing the second edition of Mansions of Madness. Now,
that's the one with the app, isn't it?
That's the one with the app. Now, Mansions of Madness. Okay, so it's part of the Arkham Horror Cthulhu series of games produced by Fantasy Flight Games. Okay, so immediately you kind of know. Well, if you've seen any of those games from Fantasy Flight, they've all got similar artwork and nice bits. You know what I'm getting at. However, this is the kind of the adventure game slash dungeon bash version of it. So it's actually it's a miniatures game. And you have scenarios with floor tiles, monsters, miniature investigators, but you still have it's still Call of Cthulhu. You can get killed, you can go insane. You get to use various different items. In the first edition, you had to have an overlord or games master or what have you who ran the game. Okay. Yes, the second edition uses an app, so you can in fact play it solo if you so wish. But the app moderates the game, Now, it's available either on tablet or on something like Steam, for example. When we were playing it on Steam with a laptop. And essentially, it plays the role of the Dungeon Master. So, when you start a scenario, it will, you get to choose your investigators. You can either choose them or randomly allocate them with the cards in the game. Okay. And then you tell the game what investigators you're using. You choose your scenario. It will tell you what your starting equipment is, and then you allocate it out between however many people are in the party. And it will tell you the layout of the first floor tile. So it will tell you, where you put all your because but basically you've got like effectively doors, places to explore, places to search, and it may tell you if there's anybody or any creatures or anything in the room when you first start. And then, as you move around the board, you basically click and say, okay, I want to explore over here, or I want to search that. I want to search that item over there, and the app plays just like a Dungeon Master. Some of it is just text only. Some of it is pre-recorded speech. Interestingly, they've used the same voice actor as they used for their Elder Sign app. If anybody's ever played the online version of Elder Sign, the app version of Elder Sign, it's the same voice actor that they use, which I thought was a nice touch. The game's quite atmospheric. It plays sound effects and a soundtrack in the background, so that's quite atmospheric. And as I say, essentially, it runs the game, and it's very good. It's a little slow at times, as in just the sheer. Well, okay, you've got a room, therefore you've got to find this room, and you have to do this. Click continue, then do this. Click continue, then do that. So it takes you through step by step how to set the rooms out when you find them and where they all are and stuff. But once it goes, and yes, there is you do have to. It doesn't fully manage everything. So, for example, on the investigator's turn, it doesn't say, right, okay, investigator 1, it's now your action 1, it's now your action 2, what you're going to do, sort of thing. The board is used to track, where you are and where the creatures are and what have you. But things like, for example, doing searching for clues, you can solve puzzles. The whole thing of attempting to unlock a door, and it says, okay, you make a skill test against this skill test. It doesn't tell you how easy or difficult it is. It just says, make a skill test and let us know how many successes you've got. And then it just tells you whether you've passed or failed. If you pass, it describes what happens, and if it fails, it says, it describes what happens, or what have you. So, I was actually really impressed. It took a while, as I say, it takes, I'm not convinced whether it's any quicker than if you play with another person, and they're playing the Dungeon Master as such. Having said that, it's done really well. What we saw, it wasn't glitchy at all, so it looked to be coded well, and seemed very streamlined, and provided for a very enjoyable game. So I was really impressed. With it.
Okay, let me just ask you this then. Were you playing a board game that happened to have a computer running the Overlord, or were you just playing a computer game where you had a board in front of you?
That's age-old question.
Yeah, because the way you described it, it sounded like you were the four of you were just playing the computer game, and you just happened to have the table there for window dressing.
No, there's two. No, there was two of us. It was definitely a case of, I must admit, I found it was definitely a case of, when I was thinking what to do, I was looking at the board.
Mm.
When it came to actions such as when you're doing monster fights, you have to read the instructions off the screen. And then I'm rolling, but at that point you're rolling dice, you're checking your stats and what have you. For me, I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in the fact of, I don't think it's a game that you can play without the board and the miniatures there.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I say, for example, the app doesn't track where anybody is. So all you're doing for the app is you're saying, right, okay, I'm going over to this area of the board. So you're moving on the board and tracking on the board, and then you're clicking a search function on the app to say, okay, what's over there. I didn't feel like I was playing a computer game. I did like the fact that everything was secret. And now, okay, you get that same experience if you're playing against another player. And I suppose from that side of things, there isn't that confrontational experience.
Mm.
Okay, that you get playing another player. But it didn't feel like I was playing a computer game and the board was there for window dressing. The board was actually it was actually important to what was going on. As I say, at the point where we discovered a priest of Dagon in a room, and then these three deep ones appeared, and they appeared, so you place them down on the board and kind of look and go, oh crap, because basically you ended up in a situation where we were just surrounded by them. And it was like, and they were, Or, as far as the computer game was concerned, or as far as the app was concerned, it just said they appear here, here, and there, and here sort of thing. In relation to where we were as well and where everything else was, that was really one of those kind of oh crap moments.
Mm.
But no, so to answer your question, I still felt I was playing a board game, but it was a different sort of experience.
Okay.
It was a better experience than playing Achilles, I would suggest, actually. Now, I know a lot of people criticised Achilles in the past, that rather than being a moderated board game, a moderated war game, was almost, you could pretty much play the game without the miniatures, because especially since it had all the animations for the miniatures and the combat and all that sort of thing in it. This hasn't.
Mm.
So it moderates certain things, but it certainly doesn't moderate the entire game for you.
Right. Can you play it without the app?
I don't think you can.
Mm.
I think the second edition is designed to be played with the app. The first edition was designed to be played with another player.
Yeah.
But the way they've done it is the fact of it's designed to work with the app. So the other thing is that you can play it solo.
Yeah.
And effectively you play against the game. But no, it's you play up to, I think it's 5 players, but it is a completely cooperative game moderated by the app.
Okay. Interesting.
It was interesting. It was a lot better than what I expected it to be. It was certainly immersive.
Mm.
And I really enjoyed it. So from did it tick all the boxes? Most definitely. And I really enjoyed it. The only downside of the entire game are the blooming stupid bases that most of the monsters come on. Because the figure bases for the monsters are just ugly. But everything else, even all the monsters themselves, the monster miniatures are perfectly decent, but they got a strange decision about basing, which they have these rather large square bases which just don't match at all. But other than that, that was really good. So that's basically what I played this week. And then I bought a couple of things. So I bought a couple more Lord of the Rings miniatures from Jeff. Hello, Jeff, but not that Jeff.
How many is a couple?
1, 2, many, lots.
No, we're not quite into the Hobbs level of counting here. Dozen? Probably. I mean, it's
Slightly more than a couple then.
yeah. I mean, what's the difference of 2 or 3 between friends? You know.
Well, 10.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, I basically bought a metal version of the Fellowship, a couple more extra Gimlis, and a Warg Chieftain. Because I'm going to end up buying some plastic Wargs. The wild Wargs. But Jeff had a Warg Chieftain, so I bought that. And then I won an eBay auction and bought a couple of extra cave trolls. because a couple of extra trolls are quite useful, especially in the Goblin army. That was me.
Cool.
Go you.
Shall I go next? What do you want to go, Mike?
Go on then.
Okay, what have I been doing? Right. Painting stuff. I've been painting. I've been painting Urukai for a shock. Just for a change. Still painting Urukai.
40 down, 90 to go.
Now I'm up to about 80 or 90 now.
Oh my god, okay, 90 down, about another 90 to go.
No, I've done most of the troops. Be on to the characters next. So yeah, painting those. I had a present sent to me from a listener.
Ooh.
Colin. One of Colin, I follow on Twitter for a long time, so he's Colin Snellgrove. And he sent me a message going, do you want this troll? And I went, I love it. And I asked him how much, and he went, nothing. So we argued about that for a while, and he won. And he sent me this beautifully painted Mordor troll for Lord of the Rings, plus a mounted Eomer, which is lovely. So thank you very much, Colin. It's really nicely painted, and I'm very, very touched. So, yeah, that's nice. Went to Firestorm on Saturday. Met the guys for our Star Wars Day. So
Star Wars Day?
A Star Wars Day, yeah.
Star Wars Day?
Yeah.
26th of August?
Yeah, Star Wars Day. Don't have
Is it usually May the 4th?
No, it's always better when it's done in August. So there was me and Ty and Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
And
Hi, Steve.
Mr. Slade turned up as well with his other friend, Jason. And in the morning, Steve took guys through Imperial Assault and showed them how that works. Whilst I put together some of the battle systems, card terrain, and I built an Imperial base for our second game.
Oh, right, okay.
That was great fun. I do like messing around with battle systems, card terrain. It's great fun. So in the afternoon, we played 7TV Star Wars, and it was fab.
It did look a lot of fun. I mean, if people didn't see it, look on Mr. Hobbs's Twitter feed for last weekend.
It was great fun. Ty put the scenario together. So we had Ben, Luke, Han, Chewie, and a couple of the Imperial Assault characters that Ty converted into 7TV. And they had to attack a rebel base and kill Vader. So me and Matt were the Imperial, bringing order to an otherwise disrupted galaxy. So we had Vader, we had one of the Emperor's champions, and we had a whole bunch of stormtroopers. And it was great fun. Ended up in this corridor with everybody scrapping. You can't wish for better than that. Yeah, and it just worked. It just absolutely worked. I mean, because 7TV really gives you the flavour of a TV show. So you got all these odd things happening because you basically turn over cards at the beginning of each turn, and there's like a special effect or something. So you get things like continuity error, where you can move a piece of terrain because they moved between sets, between takes.
Oh, which is why that building disappeared.
That's why the building disappeared, yeah. So we actually, I took I took all my figures on, and I had the ATST. So I just put it to the side of the building, and I said, "We're not using that." And Jason didn't hear me, so he sent a couple of troops round to go and take out the ATST, and turned over this card. This building moved, and he was completely isolated. And he went, "Oh, see, he's going to die now." And I went, "We're not using the ATST." So we had this one character stuck on one side of the board who was meant to be shooting the ATST, which we weren't even using. It wasn't even turned on. It was just parked there.
It was just parked there on the side of the set.
Yeah, just parked there.
Yes. Yeah, special effects crew. No, not using that model for this shot. Okay, we'll just put it over there for now.
But,
I like it.
Yeah, I've forgotten how much I liked 7TV. I haven't played it for a few months.
Kind of reminds me of the origin story for one of my BattleTech characters back when MechWarrior was a fabulous RPG who was a Holo TV presenter and managed to scare off a couple of bandits with the mock-up Marauder they had in the studio. And decided she wanted to be a MechWarrior as a result.
Oh, cool.
I like it.
Yeah, but no, like I say, 7TV is a fantastic game. All sorts of things happen, and you've just got to play it for fun. And it was just a really fun narrative game. And I killed 2 Wookiees. So, yeah, so we played that.
Add your own Wookiee joke at this point.
Yes. And we had a little wander around. I didn't buy anything.
I'm sorry?
I didn't buy anything.
I'm sorry. Is that completely true?
There may have been some late on collateral damage.
Collateral damage.
Collateral damage. Yeah. You see, when we finished the scenario, we sort of went, well, that sets up for the next game, and we can have the figures that we killed held hostage somewhere, and I went, and that means we can have Ben who escaped, and we can have Ben and Leia. And Lando, they can go and rescue him. But I haven't got a Lando. So...
Oh, disaster!
Do you now?
I do now, yeah. And a couple of Rebel Troopers. So there we go. For the next episode in the series, we'll be...
So you got to get them painted for next time round?
I've got a few months to money. So yeah, that's me, really. A fairly quiet one.
Cool.
So, continuing with the Star Wars theme. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No.
I wasn't, no.
So, I'm off for this week, last week. We've been sorting out various bits of the house, which is complete chaos, which included Anne looking up at the board game shelf and seeing the foam inlay pack I'd bought for Imperial Assault and saying, "What's that?" So I told her, she said, "Do you want me to sort it out for you while I'm watching TV?" I said, "Sure." So she's unboxed Imperial Assault and stuck it in the foam and had a flick through the rules, and we were considering playing it when Dave from the club pinged me on Sunday afternoon and said, "What are you doing tomorrow at the club? Do you fancy a game of something Star Warsy?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll bring Imperial Assault along." So I have had my first game of Imperial Assault, and it was great fun. I have to say, very fond of it as a system. Once I've not played it as a skirmish game. I'm only playing the dungeon crawl, the sci-fi dungeon crawl, if you like, and really like it. Nice game. We'll be playing more of that, which is a good job, really, because there's a whole load more expansions still to buy.
Oh yes, there's lots of.
Oh yes, there is, and some of it's really, really pretty.
Did you do the campaign mode, Mike, or the skirmish mode?
Of course, we did the campaign mode.
Good stuff.
I mean, the skirmish game's all very well, but I like my games with a bit of story behind them. So, other than that, I assembled a universal carrier. Just the one.
What, in 15 mil?
Plastic Solid Company 15 mils. Yeah, it's the AOP model.
How often did you curse the model?
I broke 4 aerials. But fortunately, I'm not planning on assembling the rest as AOP models. So.
Oh, right, so you had 7 to choose from. What if you
Yeah, fundamentally, that aerial on the sprue is really, really fragile while it's on the sprue. And if you're not careful how you clip it, it snaps in half about 2/3 of the way down, which I did 3 times before I figured out the error of my ways. So there is a very nice one here. I planned up the scenario for the club's next Ain't Been Shotgun game, which is a continuation of the battle from 2 sessions ago, which also involved me buying a Flames of War Spitfire, because they have some ground attack, and a radio aerial, because I think the Flames of War bases are stupidly low for air support. So I picked up a which I will use to build a bigger and more appropriate base for it, and probably just magnetise the plane and clip it to the top. Seems to me to be about the most sensible approach. Either that or magnetise the top and stick a ball bearing in the plane so it can sit at various angles. As yet undecided. It's not like I'm short on magnets to try it. And then then there was the great M10 Achilles debate. Sorry, M10C debate.
Oh, okay.
Namely that acquiring them in 15 mil is interesting.
I thought we talked about this last week and said you were going to get them from Skytrex.
No, it doesn't work. See, the problem is, if you want M10s, then Battlefront used to do a very nice resin and metal box. Well, they actually do 2 very nice resin and metal boxes, one of which was 2 M10s and a Greyhound and a couple of Jeeps with crew, American only. One of which was 4 M10s with crew, American only. They now do a plastic box, which is 5 of them, with the choice of being M10s or M10Cs, i.e. the 17-pounder version, but only with American crew. They suggest you should use the British tank crew, which is, of course, entirely wrong, because Achilles crew, by the period of the war I want them, would started to wear the new issue helmet, because frankly, you're sitting out there in the open with an open-top tank going, can I not have my head blown off with random bits of shrapnel, please? So that doesn't work. So I toyed with buying that box and then using some spare figures from the Plastic Soldier Company Lloyd Carrier set, on the theory that they're the right arm of service, since they're anti-tank and therefore Royal Artillery, but they don't have the tank helmets. So, Forged in Battle, do an M10. Don't do an M10C. Peter Pig, do an M10C. No crew. And to my mind, you can't do an open-top tank without crew. Gaming models. Mr. Yingling's friends in, wherever it is, Ohio? Somewhere? Do a very nice M10. C. No crew. Oh, also, of course, the Forged in Battle one is welded to a concrete paving slab, which some of us may object to.
Moving swiftly on.
Skytrex do one. It's only an M10, not an M10C, and guess what? No crew.
No crew.
I finally found, buried in the murky depths of the Battlefront catalogue, they still do a resin and metal M10C with British crew. So I bought 3.
Sorry, who was that from again?
Battlefront.
But I thought you said they didn't do them anymore.
They don't do the resin and metal American ones. They still have, or you can still get, if you know who to ask, the resin and metal British blister, which comes with a 17-pounder gun, the duckbill counterweight, and British crew. So there you go. So I now have 3 M10s on the way, as well as a Spitfire, a radio aerial, and a Churchill ARK from Skytrex, because nobody else makes one.
And how long did it take you to get through all that investigation?
2 hours. And there's also quite a long thread on the I Ain't Been Shotgun. It was partly prompted by someone else asking, because they wanted to know who made the best M10. And I thought, well, while we're here, let's have a look, because I need to do the research and find out who actually makes the best British one, which is a completely different problem. But I still do have a box, the old resin and metal box of M10 76s, which will get used at some point, but I needed some British ones, so there you go. These things happen. Oh, and on the subject of I Ain't Been Shot, Mum, listeners may remember that on somewhere about episode 220, I was quietly chuffed that the Facebook group had made 200 members. Made 300 last week.
You're spreading the word well, sir.
Evidently. I was quite flabbergasted.
Excellent stuff. Wow. Welcome everyone to IB Shopman.
Indeed, yeah. So, in which case, yeah, you're definitely going to have to get yourself down the A47 and come and have a game at some point, since I'm sure Luffy will not be available to play.
Oh, in that case, then that would almost be rude not to.
It would, and there may even be cake.
Cake?
Yeah, there's an offer you can't refuse. Cool.
Probably involving vegetables. I see someone was fairly determined to have the last word on our Facebook group the other day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Here, have a recipe. It's good. I hate to say this, but told you so.
And thank you indeed to the text message this evening from our good friend Breaking Cranky, who again is admonishing. He said, "Oh, by the way, make that cake recipe. It's really good." Yes, sir. We shall.
I love our listeners.
They are really
They
cool.
are wonderful people.
Are we done for this
I
bit?
think we are. I'm just waiting for the post now.
Cool. Right, in that case then, let's get out of here and we'll come back. And when we come back, we will be chatting with Andy from Firestorm Games. We hope that you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, would you like to support us? There's a couple of ways of doing so. You can become a patron of the show by supporting us on our Patreon page. There you can give regularly every time we produce a show. Alternatively, you may want to give a one-off donation, and you can do that by using PayPal. For more details on both these options, please click on the Donate tab on our website www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Have you ever wondered what's going on in wargaming? We do too. So come with us as we go behind the hobby with the Meeples and Miniatures interview. I thought I'd just put a very quick audio note in at just before the start of the interview. At a couple of times during the interview, we get this quite strange background noise. Only happens on a couple of occasions. Sorry, couldn't get it out of the interview sound without massively affecting the sound quality, so I've left it in there. I hope it doesn't disturb you too much. If you're wondering what it was, I think the office we were in backs onto one of the toilets, and I think it was actually the hand dryer in the toilet, which is what that strange droning is on 2 or 3 occasions in the background. But I hope it doesn't spoil the enjoyment of the interview too much. I'm very pleased to welcome to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. We're here with Andy Walpole, who is the events manager at Firestorm Games. Hi, Andy.
Hello.
How you doing? You alright?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Welcome to Firestorm Games and the South Wales Gaming Centre, which is the venue that you're within. Within that, we've got Firestorm Games, the shop, and also the venue that you're playing in, where we've got the tabletop, the card play area, the board game space as well for people to come and play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if people are unaware of Firestorm Games, can you give us a quick overview of, how long has Firestorm been around, and how did it get to its current status?
Okay, so we actually started about 8 years ago. Bricks and Mortar Shop started with a small sort of play area within that, and only a few hundred yards down the road actually. So that one, much smaller sort of premises, but we were very lucky in that out the back we could expand and we could go to 64 tables for gaming and wargaming.
Yeah.
So that sort of grew as a sort of an aspect of Firestorm, the sort of shop, big online presence, but also keeping that bricks and mortars kind of feel to it. Yeah. The kind of idea that it would stock lots of ranges. It wouldn't just focus on one. It would be able to cover a broad aspect of the hobby. And then associated with that, the idea that we wanted a venue where people could come and play. Yeah. And play in a nice environment, not just tournaments, but casual play as well. And it's become effectively the de facto club meeting place within Cardiff. There are other clubs as well, but several others have come in and use our facilities on a regular basis, so a club within a club almost. Mm-hmm. But we outgrew that about 3 years ago really, and we started looking for bigger premises. And again, just the way these things work out, turned right out the shop, and at the end of the street was an old furniture sort of warehouse, and we managed to acquire that and the lease for that, so the shop is now significantly larger and the gaming space is significantly larger. So the biggest events that we've put on in here are card playing type events, where we've had 350 people in here for a Bushy Road Cardfight Vanguard event. Right. Magic events, we've had 230 players. Tabletop, biggest ones we've run, about 180, 190 War Machine players. Obviously with War Machine you're using smaller boards, so we can put more players in. But the ethos in terms of the playing space has always been, myself as the event manager is always keen to make sure that there's space, and that there's space around the boards for people to play. So we have 6x4 boards, but they're all very multi-purpose the way they're set up. We have 4x2 dividers between each board, but we have flat tops on all the boards, so we can lift segments that we want. Is it a 3x3 board that we require? Is it a 4x4 board? Is it a 6x4 board? And there's always that mantra that we want space between the boards, no matter how big the event is that we go to. We don't want to be in that situation where it's a board right next to another board, right next to another board. We want to give people space to. It's amazing the amount of stuff that people bring for tournaments, and the amount of stuff for that they just have to have, even though they're not playing with it in that particular game. They bring their entire collections, and they like to have that. And we want to make sure that people enjoy the environment that they're playing in, and that they can freely move around.
Cool. Right. So obviously we have the Firestorm shop. I know that's not your main concern, but Firestorm as a business appears to be growing massively. And I mean, what sort of thing do you now cover? Is there anything you don't do?
I can't think of anything at the moment. I mean, again, since we've moved into these premises, we've also expanded to a second shop in Newport, and that's a slightly different venture in that it's within a Tesco. So there's a slightly different focus towards it. We still stock wargame related products in there, but there's a slightly different emphasis on the products we do. We do a lot more of the card game related products in there, and toy related products as well. But there's still that sort of underlying basis that it is part of the Firestorm brand. So we do sell our wargame products through that. The main store is the Cardiff one in terms of what you would call a traditional wargaming store, and we do full ranges. So yes, we've got all of the Games Workshop stuff in there, but we like to think, and we think we do have the biggest range of War Machine in any place within the UK in terms of availability. But we stock Guild Ball, we do Flames of War, we make sure we do historical and fantasy related subjects. So there's pretty much everything we've got available here. So I myself as the events manager is responsible for that space where people come and play. We've got Jake Cannon, who's the store manager within here. He's responsible for the retail aspect, if you like, and then obviously the owner, Rob West, sits above that. Sits in his spider's web and does his strategic vision about how he's going to conquer the world and where he's going to go to next.
One store at a time.
So obviously, so you've got wargaming products, big range of board games, right down to toys, Lego,
Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, when we tweeted a photo just on the front of the store yesterday, the amount of people that came back and went, Lego in a Wargames store, what a fantastic idea.
What we find, what we often find with our tournaments, so guys will come down, they're looking for a really good weekend. They'll come on the Friday. We've got a bar here where Tiny Rebel, which is a local craft brewer that's got quite a good name for itself now, quite a big entity within the sort of real ale type world, if you like. We got very lucky getting in with them, so people come for a good weekend, but then of course the guilt trips in Sunday afternoon about 3 o'clock and they're going, I've got to go back, what am I going to... So Lego's brilliant because they can take a Lego game back for their boy or their girl or whatever. So what we've got to do is sort the wife out and we'll be fine. Maybe we should have flowers as well, I'm not sure.
Flowers and chocolates.
Yes. Obviously, so they got that. You've got catering in store as well, haven't you?
We have a cafe facility in store, so again, we wanted to make sure, 3-4 years ago, what you would get when you went to a weekend event would be sandwiches and crisps, that kind of thing. So we wanted, when we moved to this, to make sure that we upped our game with that, and we wanted to provide proper hot food as a food option for people that were coming to play in tournaments. And Christian does that for us, which is fantastic. We have 3 nights a week where we're open till 11 o'clock. So I was talking earlier about this idea where we become effectively the de facto place for people to come and play within Cardiff.
Yeah.
And he's here as well for that, so people can come down, they can grab a bite to eat, they can play a bar again, and then he's here for the weekends when we do the big catered events. He's here every Saturday, but if we have the major events, he's here on the Saturday and the Sunday, and he's also open for breakfast. So again, it's that thing where you're just always looking to try and see what you can do to improve and provide as a service in effect. And people really appreciate that. We're pretty centrally located in Cardiff. You can almost see the main train station at the bottom of the road. We're not that far away from the centre of town, but it's still great that people can just grab everything they want here from a lunch point of view without having to disappear off, because TOs don't have to get upset when their players don't turn up back through the door when they're supposed to be playing again. So that works as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of the major events that you organise. I mean, how about turning up and playing?
Turning up and playing is... unless it's about 3 times a year, we have events where we're sold out, and we will put that out. But we're such a big venue now with the ability to put 64 tables out there for 6x4. We have a separate area for the card play area and the board gaming. That there's always space in essence, even if we're running events. So what we try to look to do is once a month, a big event, one big headliner, if you like, that would be your 80, 100 player, 128 player, the big events. And then the other weekends, we're looking at 2-3 smaller events. So at the end of the month here, we've got a 9th age tournament, which is going to be 50-60 type of players. We've got a Hobbit skirmish tournament running at the same time, which is going to be 24-30 players. And we've got some card game stuff going on as well. And we also have a painting workshop where somebody comes down and they do people pay to be sort of taught how to paint and stuff. And they've become very popular recently. So we've got multiple things going on, but even with that, we still have space for casual play. So people can just rock up. The first time they come down and want to play, if they want to play on the tabletops, it's free. We'll just register them. People are given a 4-digit code, and when they come in the future, you can either have a yearly membership, quarterly membership, or you pay for the day, £3.60 per person. If you want to come down and just play cards or board games, it's free. It's a separate area, you don't pay for that. We only charge people if we're using the tables, because we are always reinvesting back in the terrain. So this November, the joys of being in Cardiff means that every Saturday in November there's a international game, rugby game on. So we don't tend to schedule things when there's big events.
And actually, again, location-wise, you're not far from Millennium Stadium.
No. You look out the front door and you can see the top of the Millennium Stadium. So this November is going to be a massive drive on sorting terrain out for next year, and that money that we get through the battlefields, it's effectively non-profit, the battlefield, so that area where people play. that money gets reinvested back in new terrain, because things change. Games that were maybe hot a couple of years ago that we've got terrain for, not so much. Infinity's come back into vogue now, so we know we need to up our game in terms of Infinity type terrain. A couple of weeks ago we had Spectre Ops, I don't know if you've come across them. They had an open day here, and so that made us aware. We managed, we could get tables out for them because it was a popular event. We had about 24 people coming down for the weekend playing. So we know, okay, we've identified something there, and that's the kind of thing that we do. We look at where we've got gaps, and then we've run a big War Machine event for the past, must be 8 years now, and it's got bigger and bigger every year. And there's always changes within game systems. You know, suddenly this year you've got to have trench systems in War Machine for tournament play, so you've always got to sort of make sure that you're reinvesting and redoing the terrain to make sure it reflects what the players want. Yeah. So we generally have about 2/3 of our terrain, maybe 50% of our terrain out permanently in the area for people to use. So if you turn up, you can use what you want on the tables, whatever you want to use. We've got a lot of different combinations of tables that we can put together for you. If you want an Apocalypse board, you want a 12x6, or you want a however size board that you want, we can rig that up for you. And we also have a large amount of terrain that's stored upstairs, and we bring that down for the big tournaments, the Sunday best if you like, but we do like to make sure that we cycle that through as well. So we take some stuff away that people have maybe seen for a few months, and we bring some new stuff down. We just keep going like that. Yeah. And there's always repairs, and there's always things that you need to sort of do to sort of just keep things up to date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with the battlefields, I mean, there's a lot of talk in the hobby about hobby greying. But as you as an events manager, what are you seeing on the ground? Are you seeing a lot more young couples coming in and playing? Is there a lot more females? Or
there's a lot of women coming in and playing. So if you look out there today, we've got quite a lot of board games in today. There's a mixed, good mix within that. Mm-hmm. The card play as well. We're beginning to see Pokemon has done a lot with that, where there's quite a few women playing that. There's a role play group up in the back there. That's about a 50-50 split. There's about 7-8 of them there, and they're a good mixture between them. In terms of the greying of the hobby debate, we do have historical gaming in here. And I suppose that's probably the one where you would think that that's happening the most. We do Virtus 2000 every year, which is a big L'Art de Guerre tournament in December. Yeah. And we do another historical one in January. Richard Bodley Scott's, the one that used to be up in the Usk area, and they brought that here this year, which was several different systems. So some of the classics like DBM were in there, but also his fog system. Yeah. There was a little L'Art de Guerre, so that was like several tournaments under one banner. There were younger players in that. There were people that I would consider to not to be sort of senior citizens, if you like. Games like Infinity, games like War Machine, those games that are 3x3s, 4x4s, those smaller boards. Now they're still quite dense in terms of the terrain, low figure counts. That one you see in the 20-somethings, the 30-somethings sort of playing in. So we've got an Infinity tournament out there at the moment. They're playing those games, and there's a lot of that going on in the kitchen table, so they can play those at home. They don't need to come necessarily to a big venue here. So what we need to do, for people to come here and play, is make sure we've got all the terrain, for them, so that they can have a really cool board when they play on it, because there's quite an investment involved in sort of doing that to a certain level. So I would say those kind of systems are coming through. And that's where because traditionally, I think in this hobby, what everybody's always assumed is everybody plays Games Workshop until they're, 18. Some of them might have a bit of a gap while they go to university, and then you hit your mid-20s, and what do you do? Some of them, you pick it up a bit. Yeah. Well, those ones to me are the ones that are out there playing things like Infinity, the Batman game when it was out. Workshop, I think, have been very clever at trying to bring those gamers back in now when they did their Shadow Wars, the Necromunda re-release, which had a fantastic uptake because lots of people had a nostalgia for it,
Yeah.
or ones that had played it when they were that little bit younger. And now, of course, they've brought out their 8th edition, which has had a huge impact of ex-players sort of flocking back towards that.
Yeah, it seems to be that seems to have really caught
People that
imagination.
were, so...
Mr. Hobbs,
Hello.
confess.
Yeah, I bought it. Yeah, and I played it, and I enjoy it. And I played here at Firestorm Games.
I mean, I'm a historical gamer at heart. So
Yeah.
my background is all historical gaming, Napoleonic era gaming. So has that debate always been there? That hobby's always been greying? I don't know.
It's important, isn't it?
When did wargaming on that historical level sort of start? Was that us starting that in the 80s and nobody's sort of joined it since? I don't think so. There must have been an influx.
I've heard that that argument since I started wargaming, back in the 90s. It's always been there, and I since playing here, I mean, this place has always been an eye opener because of the sheer diversity of people who come here and play.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the amount of people that are here of all different ages. I've never seen that anywhere, any shop or anything. So what's the secret? Why do you get that? Is that because of Cardiff? Is that makeup of the gaming world in Cardiff? Or,
I think
it's getting on.
Yeah, I think it's providing the space. So it's providing the venue and saying, right, well, if I come down here, I can play that game that I'm interested in, right? I'm not crowded, I'm not marginalised, I'm not stuck in a corner. I've got the space to do it. Now, of course, when you see that game and the guy, a couple of tables up is playing something else, you notice, you look, you go over, you speak, you ask. And, we want to, and we do, have a friendly environment. And people are welcome, and people feel comfortable, within that, like you're saying, there is a lot of diversity, a lot of games. There's a Flames of War gaming on it out there. There's a couple of guys down the bottom playing 8th edition because there's a tournament in a couple of weeks, so they're practicing. It's a doubles tournament. We've got the Infinity tournament going on. We've got all the board game stuff going on. There's a Guild Ball game as well, I think. Then we've got the role players, we've got the board, we've got a regular Yu-Gi-Oh card players. There's quite a lot of younger players in that. That's a game that has reinvented itself recently with a new edition, and that's brought younger players in through that. So I think it's just a case of we've always tried to provide a welcoming environment so people don't feel intimidated when they come in, and they don't feel as if they're being ridiculed, possibly. What are you playing that game for? You want to play the game? There's the table, enjoy yourself. There's a huge array of games now. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And the whole range of what you can play is fantastic.
I don't know if is it the way that Firestorm are doing it, and that other companies haven't done it in that way in the past, because all the gaming shops we've ever really had in Leicester have always ended up, even though they've tried to be board game shops as well, have always ended up being card shops, haven't they?
Yeah,
always.
Maybe part of it, I don't know, it's down to the amount of space you have. Is it a thing of the fact, like, for example, if you've got a shop with gaming space attached, if you've if you've got half a dozen tables, and only half a dozen tables, you're perhaps limited in what you can do. Yet, if you're in a situation like here, for example, where you've got, say, 60, 70-ish tables, different spaces for different things, that provides diversity itself, because it isn't a case of, you're not, as you say, you're not on top of each other.
I just wonder if it's something intrinsic about the area of Cardiff, or whether it's actually something intrinsic about the shop, because we've known shops that have had that. They've had like 12 gaming tables and a big area for cards, and then the owners turned around and said, oh, well, actually the gaming area, get rid of it. Yeah. Transferring it all over to cards, because it doesn't get used.
We've had that way.
Something to do with the area and the shop itself, isn't it?
Shops struggle because, and it turns, and they end up turning into primarily card shops, simply because they're the things that seem to be pulling in custom. And
it can be tempting to do that. And if you've got a smaller shop, then what you will do is prioritise. So if you've got a Magic pre-release coming up, you will just turf everyone else because you want that Magic pre-release in. We don't have to do that because we've got the space to be able to accommodate everybody. We don't have to say, sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh players, you're not welcome this week. And we never ever we never want to turn anyway. If you want to come and play a game here, you come and play a game here, and we will accommodate you. As I'm saying, there's maybe 2 or 3 times a year when we're absolutely full up. When we've got those 190 players in, but we tell people in advance, and we make alternative arrangements. I was thinking there just while you were saying about whether it's something to do with Cardiff. We are a university town, but then so are other towns. So you do get that sort of vibe of when you have a university type town. There's a big student population, which gives you a different. But then there are other places.
There's 2 universities in Leicester, but it hasn't worked in Leicester.
I think a lot of it is the way that you brought in the clubs, the local clubs, and say play here. So
I think that's a good point. So when Firestorm started, that was a very good thing that happened right at the beginning. In that one of the big clubs, there's 2 sort of main traditional wargaming clubs within Cardiff. There's Penarthun District, which is a fantastic club. They do a range of games up there. They've got 2 different locations that they play in. Really good guys, and a lot of them come down and play here. But they've still got their own separate sort of identity, if you like. And then there was Cardiff Wargames Club, and they were looking for a new venue themselves anyway, and they brought themselves in-house, if you like, and this became their club. Now what we do for them is we've given them storage space, so as a club within a club, if you like, they've got their own areas where they've got their club night, if you like, is a Thursday. They've got their tables allocated to them, they've got their own space. But what's happened over time, of course, is that they've still got an identity, but then you can spread out. You can experience other sort of games that are going on. You can cross fertilise with what else is going on. And there are other groups here. We've got the Vale Renegades, which has effectively grown up within the battlefields itself. Now, they're a club that are particularly interested in 40k. They do play other games as well, but they're effectively what you could call a club within a club as well. But with the new 8th edition coming out, Workshop have gone back to their roots to some extent. They're bringing out proper organised play, they're supporting it, they've put a bit more fun back into the way they're presenting things, and we're running that here, the Fate of Connor campaign for 8th edition. That's brought all the disparate groups, the people that aren't in a club, the people that are part of the Cardiff Wargames Club, the Viet Taff as they're known, the Vale Renegades, they're all playing together under this one roof. So.
Yeah, and it turns this venue into somewhere you go to wargame. It's not a shop that you go to buy stuff. It's just where you go. If you want a game, there happens to be a shop there, a very good shop. But I think that's because it's busier. I mean, today there's no real events on. You've got a small.
No, we had the Infinity's about a 16-player event, so this is one of our smaller weekends, if you like. The next 3 weekends coming up will be about 100 plus in each of them. So the first weekend of September, we've got a big Age of Sigmar tournament. That's going to be 90, 100 players. The weekend before that, we've got 3 separate tournaments on, including the 9th Age one, and then next weekend we've got a 40k tournament and other stuff running. So,
but even so, on a quiet day, there's still 50, 60 players out there all playing games. And that's on a quiet day. You just don't see that anywhere else.
And Tuesdays, Thursdays and Friday evenings as well, you get different groups on the different nights to some extent, but again they're busy nights, and we've got the facilities to provide for them. Friday night was the most recent one where we went late opening because we suddenly had that brainwave where we went, hang on, we're open for Friday Night Magic anyway, why don't we just throw the doors open and let gamers come in? And we thought, well, it doesn't, we're not losing anything because we're open anyway because of Friday Night Magic, and it's been fantastically popular. It's been really good. And every so often, again, what we try to do is sort of schedule. So normally we close at 6 on a Saturday, but whenever there's a big Magic pre-release, we run the pre-release from the afternoon through. Because of the midnight one, we were finding that people wanted to do 2, but of course if you've done the midnight one through to about 6 in the morning, to then start again at 10 is a bit of an ask. So we've shifted our Magic, the Saturday Magic pre-release to about 4 o'clock. So we now stay open until 11 whenever we do those pre-releases for Magic on a Saturday night. Again, you're not doing it every week, but once in a while, and you tell people about it, they go, oh, yeah, we'll make a weekend of that. We'll come down and we'll start gaming about 12 o'clock, and then we've got a really good run at a game going through. and that's become popular as well.
Anything in the pipeline for Firestorm that you can tell us about, where you're going to, up your game that little bit more? Any teasers?
Any teasers? Oh, I'm not sure I'm the right one to ask about that. I think
Oh.
the Rob's one.
On your department, then. What
From
are
my
you looking
part,
forward?
from the events part of view, the big thing that I'm looking to do is reinvest in the tables and the terrain for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a big influx because of the 40k and the amount of space that we're allocating now to that on our gaming nights during the week, and I'm going, right, okay, we need to make sure that we can focus on that and put more terrain in and improve the terrain and the facilities that people have got. Looking at continuing up in terms of the bar, looking again at sort of improving that. About a couple of years ago now, we went to the beer on draft and the taps, which has been great. So again, looking to improve on that and adding another beer on that one. We've got 3 at the moment: a cider, a lager, and a bitter. So looking to add something else on that. So just constantly looking at trying to improve things and just little steps really of going, okay, the tables are really good, what can make them better?
Yeah.
The terrain is really good, but what can make it better? Just continuing in that vein, really. There's always cycles in terms of the way that tournaments come along. So some old favourites drop off. You're always looking for sort of new ones. I've always got to be in my bonnet on trying to make sure we get historical stuff going on here because that's my particular interest. So that's the kind of thing that I would sort of target going forward. But yeah, can't rest on your laurels, can you? Because this kind of model, there are other places out there. We were the first, I think, that really did it this kind of way. The shop with a good sort of sized venue on the side of it, but there are other ones out there. You've also got the rise of the board game cafe culture.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's got a very polished quality sort of edge to it, doesn't it? Yeah, the way they're set up. And that's the kind of thing that you want to emulate. You want to provide those kind of facilities, but for all gaming.
Because you just started doing something like that, haven't you? A little bit.
In terms of the
in terms of hiring board games now.
Absolutely. That only started recently. We, again, with our connection with Tiny Rebel, they are a Newport-based company, and they have a pub in town there. And the way our relationship started was they knew we'd started the shop in Newport, and they contacted us and said, well, we've got this pub, we're looking for something to run on a Tuesday night. Do you fancy doing a sort of games evening for us? So that's where we started our relationship with them. And then from that we started thinking, well, why don't we have games that we can sort of give people? Because we were finding a lot of people would come down for the weekend and maybe they're playing miniatures games, but then they would want to play a sort of board game as well. So it's a natural progression of that, and we charge the nominal amount, £1 a player, and then we just reinvest that back in buying new games and putting that board game library, sort of keep it freshened up. And we've started again. It's probably FFG. Off on a tangent here, but their organised play for their games like X-Wing, Armada, their LCGs is fantastic, and they are really good at what they do in terms of organised play, from the bottom of the pyramid right the way up to their big high-end tournaments. And you find it with miniature gamers, miniature companies as well, but board games as well are beginning to go down that organised play type route. Yeah, they're offering packs and alternate art cards and things to sort of play their games. I've got a couple underneath here I've got the Seven Wonders Duel kit, and we've got one for Colt Express as well, which we'll be scheduling playing. So that's about bringing people down to play the board games. They get something a little bit different, but it's more about just come down, play, have sort of fun playing on it, which leads into the other kind of events that we sometimes do during the year. I know you've been involved as well. We do family game days a couple of times a year, where that's all about trying to bring families in and with the kids and the adults, and we particularly focus around the kind of games that are good with that, playing as a family. The other ones that you've when the Lardies came down, and we do demo days. And on the back of those demo days, what we do is a big bring and buy, which has always been popular. We run that a couple of times a year. So one half of the venue is sold out with people on a bring and buy. We give a discount for people that are selling. We give an extra discount at the till for them. And associated with it, I set up people coming down and doing demos of their games, and they sort of cross-feed against each other, because you've got a big load of people coming down either to sell stuff or to buy stuff, and then they've also got something else to do in terms of those demos that they can look at. The Lardies one was fantastic when they came down. They were really good.
Cool. Andy, it's been great to chat. Thanks for your time. I mean, I know, as I say, this is David and I's my first time here. Massively impressed with the place.
Thank you.
It's really good, isn't it?
More to do with just the culture of the place, really, than just the actual physical presence of the place. To be honest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a real, it's a real breath of fresh air, isn't it? So thank you for your time. Wish you all the very best with what's coming up, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome. Look forward to maybe doing some gaming with you next time you come down. So
that'd be cool. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
So it was good to catch up with Mr. Walpole a couple of weeks ago, and also to get down to Firestorm Games, and finally, after all this time, finally getting dragged down there. And
I suspect it's probably good for my bank balance I didn't, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look what happened to Luffy.
Well, this is it.
He has come off the wagon.
I just want to say, hello to one of our listeners, hello to Colin, a different Colin, who did email me and just thank us all for the mirth and merriment that he experienced while travelling up the M1, listening to Luffy's confession about his visit to Firestorm. He said it was the funniest thing I'd heard in weeks. Yeah, Firestorm, a potentially dangerous place, although Rob did assure me that they fixed the shelves.
Yeah.
Have they?
No.
Well, they have, but they still wobble whenever Mr. Hobbs walks past them.
That's because I'm dragging things off them, usually.
And of course, obviously, as people know, he's only got little legs, so he's got to climb up them to get the things off the top shelf.
Top shelf? Halfway up, mate. But anyways... Enough about Firestorm.
I gotta say, that's why they installed those library style ladders. It was just for you, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the rest of them can reach.
Yeah, I just slide left and right. Yeah. But anyway, enough of this moment.
I was going to say, is there any truth in the rumour that you were Peter Dinklage's stunt double?
Anyway, enough of this moment. we have to mark a very special occasion.
Indeed we do.
Yes. For, it was said, half a century ago, last Saturday, a new life came into this world. And that life is Sydney. Not his real name.
Yay!
Sir Sidney Roundwood, Esquire.
The Lord of Roundwood.
The Lord of Roundwood, indeed.
Doer of good deeds. Friend to all.
Lover of red leather couches.
Sickeningly good scenery builder.
Yes. Happy birthday, Sid.
Happy birthday, mate.
He's an alright bloke, I'll say. Happy birthday, mate.
Sorry we couldn't get to your big cock game. That's chain of command.
Who'd have thought I was born in the same year as Sydney, eh? Good grief.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes, so happy birthday to Sydney. Yes, hope you had a good time. Yes, hopefully catch up with you in the not-too-distant future. So, yes, good stuff. So, is that it? Are we about done for today's, whatever this has been?
Episode.
Thank you. Show. Yes, sorry, I was like a clockwork toy. I suddenly found myself wound down with nowhere to go.
Right,
yes, so are we about done for this episode?
I think so.
I think so.
Stick of forkiness, indeed.
Smoke me a kipper. I'll be back for breakfast.
What a guy.
Still think he should have been played by Sean Connery. Smoke me a kipper. I'll be back for breakfast.
I didn't realise Sean Connery was Dutch.
For sure. And so, dear listener, as we've lost Neil,
I think it might be.
That was possibly the worst Sean Connery impression I've ever heard.
I think it's time for me and Mike to say goodbye.
Yes, indeed. This has been episode number N+1. So, it's good night from me.
And good night from him. And as soon as Neil stops joking, it'll be good night from him.
Bye-bye. Well, good night.
Oh dear. Bye everyone. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media. And here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.